Howdy, everybody. I hope you're doing good. It is Sunday night here, and it has been one heck of a week. I was almost every day now. You guys must like, some people must like these because I get messages almost every day of people asking me to go live, just kind of give them an update and see what's going on in the world, in my world. We started we're calling it the Freedom Tour, 50 events in 25 days. Let's see, we started that on Thursday, and I think we're 7 events in. So I spent the busiest day this last few days was Friday. We spent in Klickitat County, and it was really good. We had a really good time down there. Good turnout at the events that we did, and just lots of momentum for the campaign. I feel really good about it, but I feel like there's just so much going on nationally right now. It's just absolutely astounding. I want to talk about the Chevron Doctrine because I realize most people don't understand that, but I'm telling you, this is absolutely glorious. This is like this is like cake, and you get to eat it too. It's so amazing from my perspective in terms of what I think needs to happen in America to restore our sanity and our civic process. I got a list of a few things I want to run through, but I'm going to tell you, I saw a video of myself. I don't remember where the heck I was at, but I thought, oh my goodness, he looks tired. So I've got to make sure I'm doing a good job of getting good sleep, and it's already getting late. I had the boys turn on the lights out here behind our place so you could see it. Isn't that cool? There's like a pergola out there. I don't know why the background is so blurry. I have to try to figure that out because sometimes we have such a beautiful view here. You got to try to figure out how to make it so the background is not blurry. But can you believe what's happening over in France? I don't know if you've heard about that, but they have multiple rounds for their elections. And it looks like they're likely going to elect a conservative, or at least someone that leans in the direction that we would prefer over Macron. And man, the Muslims, that whole Islamic base is just absolutely rioting and just going crazy over there. That's exactly what we do not want to see here in America. And unfortunately, these leftists that do not love America like we do, that's exactly what they want to see, and probably what they're going to see. And we just have to stand against it. It's I guess I don't see why it needs to happen. You never see conservatives protesting like that. But anyway, look at some of the videos of what's going on in France right now. It's pretty crazy. We don't want that in America. We don't. That's just so dangerous, so disrespectful to the police and the hardworking folks that are trying to ensure justice happens on the street. Quick comment about the debate this week with Joe Obama and President Trump. Obviously, President Trump just swept the floor. He did an amazing job of maintaining composure and not, taking the bait with a lot of the things that they were throwing out. I knew that they were going to ask questions in such a way that was, kind of leading him into being upset or something. And it turns out, Joe Obama did most of that. The CNN crew was reasonably respectful, at least from my perspective. And to be honest, I'll tell you, as bad as Joe Obama did, he actually did better than I thought he was going to. I've been thinking the 25th Amendment was way late, years ago. I mean, this guy had dementia in 2019. It was clear, and we all knew it. And I think this is one of the most insulting things about this whole thing, is they've obviously made this public now, but they're acting as if we didn't know. Like, just because since the debate, we've got a problem. It's like, no, we've known this for a long time. And every time I listen to that, what's her name, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, she's just so, I just honestly see it as condescending now, because they say things that are just outright utter lies, as if we don't know the difference, as if we're so dumb that we don't actually see what's going on in our country. And it's so insulting, just ridiculous. But yeah. So anyway, I don't know. A lot of people have asked me what I think is going to happen. I have no idea. There's multiple states that are saying that they don't have the time to produce the ballots with another name other than Joe Obama at this point. But my take on that is, the states would have to figure it out, because they haven't even had their conventions yet. And so technically, it could still be up in the air. And so I don't know. I just feel like the states would have to figure it out if they wanted to change. I think that we would be better off, uh, probably with Joe Obama and the cackler continuing on the ticket because they're just so weak. That says nothing about what happens over the next 7 months. I think the country is in peril. I think we're in danger, and I think that's a serious concern. How we deal with that, I don't know. But the reality is, I've felt like we were in danger since the day that he was illegitimately inaugurated. So we'll just have to see what happens. On one side, the some of the terrorists that are here will want to wait until after President Trump is in office to do their thing. But on the other hand, some of them don't care. They hate Americans, they hate Christians, and they'll go on a rampage, whenever they see fit. And it does feel like the intensity is up. And so, we just have to be vigilant. I don't say that to try to indicate that I have any idea what's going to happen. I'm just saying I think every day in America, especially the way it is right now, we need to be vigilant. I remember sitting in front of the TV when I was like 7 years old. I think there was a suicide bomber blew themselves up in a passenger bus, and it was north of Beirut somewhere. And I just remember sitting in front of the TV thinking that was a world away. And here we are now, 40 years later or whatever, 45 years later. Wow, that's crazy. Um, and it's right here in our backyards. I mean, this stuff could happen any day here in America. It's disturbing, and it's all because of the deep state, because of Joe Obama, whoever the puppet master is, and all that kind of stuff. It's really crazy. So anyway, it's just insulting that they're so condescending, that they think we're so dumb that we think that January 6th wasn't a setup. It clearly was. That the 2020 election wasn't illegitimate. It clearly was. That Joe Biden is compromised and is literally the subject of a puppet master. Of course he is. That the cackler is has any even an ounce of enough in her to actually serve as a VP, or God forbid, to be in the seat of the White House. I mean, just it's unthinkable, crazy. Okay, a few other things, and I do want to talk about the Chevron doctrine. I was thinking, who's most worried about this whole thing with Joe Obama is Hunter Biden. Look at this guy. Okay, I said this a year ago, probably more than that, probably a couple of years ago, that what they should have done, because he is such a disgusting criminal, is they should have tried him for everything a long time ago, because his dad could have pardoned him. He could have given him clemency. He could have done anything. But now it's so far down the pipe that he's not even going to be able to get through some of these cases on some of the stuff that is hanging over him before before January, which there'll obviously be a change in the guard. And so who's going to protect Hunter? President Trump is certainly not going to protect him, and he shouldn't, nor should any of us. He's guilty of incredible crimes. It's actually quite sad, because Joe Biden will not face the the consequences of his actions, as he should, because he'll be dead. I mean, the guy is on his last leg. He's probably, all these drugs, or whatever the heck they've been giving him to kind of prop him up for various things that he's had to do, I'm sure has shortened his life. And it's just dangerous. And so and his mind is gone anyway. So it's like he wouldn't even know that he was being punished anyways. The guy, you could put him in a padded room and he wouldn't know the difference between that and whatever he's doing now. He's just being led along like a puppy. His brain is just mush. And so he'll never be held responsible. But there are a lot of people. If you look at Kash Patel's book Government Gangsters, which is coming out in a movie soon, Kash Patel endorsed me for Congress. I'm so thankful for that, but I'm so honored by his work and his passion to hold these people accountable. You can also follow Ivan Raiklin online. He's what's his he calls himself the deep state marauder, but he wants to be the secretary of retribution, and that isn't a bad thing. We need to hold these people accountable. This is not about, some people are accusing Trump of, seeking retribution or seeking, to pay the kind of sort of the payback mentality. It's not about payback. Nobody wants payback. What we want is equal protection under the law. We want equal justice. We want one system of justice, not two or three layers of tiers. The situation right now, jumping into a different topic here with Steve Bannon and his amazing war room crew. Steve Bannon is going to jail in the next 24 hours because of being held in contempt of Congress for an illegitimate January 6th commission that didn't actually follow the rules to be able to create that commission within Congress. And Peter Navarro has been sitting in jail for, I think, 2 or 3 months now, and not quite as much hoopla as around him, although it's the same circumstances as Steve Bannon, just because Steve Bannon is so much more well known, especially among people who are paying attention and they're conscious, like, people that watch the War Room. And so my understanding is that Steve Bannon is going to be doing his show from inside prison, which I think is absolutely epic. I will be utterly shocked if Merrick Garland allows that to happen. But if it does, then I think that's amazing. And I think Steve Bannon will kill it. And I think it'll be absolutely, it'll, as if he needs anything else to put him, if you were to honor, you know, civilian type people for their work. I mean, Steve Bannon has certainly been one of those bold actors that just, kind of says it like it is. I mean, he's sort of like as bold and as brash as Alex Jones, but Steve Bannon is just very logical. He's just totally straight on it, and I have respect for most of Alex Jones' work as well, but he's kind of gone a little bit over the edge at times. And then there's been times when he's done that it just sounded over the edge, but he ended up being right. But Steve Bannon has just kind of been steady and consistent, and I think that's why the American people are so appreciative of him and so supportive of him. And it's interesting too, because Steve Bannon isn't asking for any money. He's not doing any fundraising for this, which is interesting. But I hope that there is a way to give. I need to find that out. But I do think that we ought to, financially support him. And same with Peter Navarro. And I think the day is probably coming for all of them where they will get some kind of, retribution for what's happened to them. And I listened to Steve Bannon just a couple hours ago, and he was absolutely promising to expose and to go after Merrick Garland for the ills and the wrongs. And that's kind of to complete the connection there. Merrick Garland is currently in contempt of Congress because he's refusing to give the audio recordings of Joe Biden and the, I think it was of his whatever it was, his cognitive test or whatever. There might have been some other circumstance or something else they were looking for from that, but Merrick Garland is actually currently in contempt of Congress. And if I was the Speaker of the House, I don't know what they're doing, but I would send the Sergeant at Arms and arrest him, and they have the authority to do that, and hopefully they will. But Merrick Garland, for those of you who don't know, he was passed up for he was nominated to the Supreme Court. Thank God he did not get confirmed by the Senate. If there's one thing that Mitch McConnell did for us, it was definitely blocking that during the last year of Obama's term. That was leading into President Trump, which is partially why we got 3 Supreme Court picks underneath President Trump, was because because Merrick Garland was never confirmed to the Supreme Court. And so, of course, he has an axe to grind. He gets access to grind that axe as the oh man, there's mosquitoes out here. I think I got bit in the foot. I'm barefoot right now. It's getting dark out here. But anyways, he's certainly got an axe to grind, and he's given the opportunity to be the Attorney General underneath Joe Obama to be able to do that. And it's really a disgrace, because my guess is that the majority of the DOJ and even the FBI, a lot of those people are probably good, solid American people, but they're just very poorly led, especially at the highest level. Man, I think I'm just getting chewed up. I gotta go inside. This is crazy. So let's see what else I got on my topic list here. I do want to talk about the Chevron Doctrine. I promise you that. I saw a little video clip of Ilhan Omar. I'm gonna have to turn the light on in here. Anyway, I saw a clip of Ilhan Omar having a rally, and she was speaking in Somalian, whatever their language is. I don't know what it is, but probably some Muslim language or something. Anyway, I thought that was a little disturbing. Here's a member of Congress, and they're having a rally and having other people speak in a foreign tongue. But then, thanks to Obama, we've got, I think they have over 600,000 refugees in her district in Minnesota, which is how she got elected. She's a follower of Islam, so she can't even rightfully take an oath of office. And as no one that follows Islam could, and they shouldn't be elected to Congress. But you can't tell me that wasn't intentional by Obama to stuff that congressional district with Somalian refugees in order to get somebody from the Islamic faith in Congress, which is crazy. They can't take the oath of office unless they denounce their own religion, which they're not going to, because then the people of their own religion would kill them. It's really crazy. So let's see, what else do I have on my list? Oh, the pride parades. Oh my gosh, this is so disgusting. First of all, there's only one flag that we should be proud of, and that's our great American flag for 248 years now. It's gone through some iterations, but 365 days a year, that's our pride flag. The Seattle and San Francisco cities had an absolutely disgraceful and disgusting public demonstrations of horrific, gross, nasty sexuality in public, nudity and sex acts and masturbation and just different things right in public. And this stuff just disgusts me. Anyway, on a much more positive note, let's go all the way to the other end of the continuum. This last week, Louisiana, I told you it was an amazing week. This last week, Louisiana confirmed that they are going to put the 10 Commandments in the schools and public buildings. Praise the Lord. And then the Oklahoma, let's see, it's office, I think in Washington State, we call it the Office of Public, the Office of Public Instruction Superintendent, whatever. I don't know what the acronym is. OSPI, Office. I know you're probably saying it because I don't know it. Office Official Superintendent in Public Instruction. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, that person in Oklahoma, I did get bit. I got at least 2 bites, one on my arm and I think one on my foot. Stupid mosquitoes. Declared, praise the Lord, that the Bible will be in every single classroom and the teachers will teach from the Bible as a historic document to help students understand the foundation of our judicial system, to understand the basis for our civics and our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence, which all come from the Bible. Our natural rights are from God. They are codified within our Constitution, and the Bible should be taught, and it's going to be taught in Oklahoma. Praise the Lord. And then I also heard that thousands of people across the country were baptized. I heard of just one church in California that baptized 800 people this week. That is amazing. Super cool. As I have said before, and I will say many, many times, if we do not have a return to biblical morality in this country, everything that we're doing politically is temporary, meaning we can't be thinking of this as, oh, we just need to win the next election and get some good people. That's not good enough. We have to pray and act. And it says it on, let's see, I think it's on this side. Yeah. That's what we have to do. We have to pray and act. We have to trust God that he's going to bring about a revival, but we have to be willing to do the work ourselves as well. And we've got to see a return to biblical morality. Our Constitution is insufficient for a citizenry that is not submitted to God, because our Constitution gives too much freedom. And you have to have people that have a moral compass and a moral framework and a moral foundation in order for it to work. Just within the justice system, for example, and then I'll get off of this and I'll talk about the Chevron Doctrine because I think I covered all my other points. There's a thing called the social compact, which most Americans haven't heard about, but they should. And you should read the Federalist Papers where this comes from. And essentially what the social compact means is it's sort of like a golden rule for how you treat other people. And it's the American way, and most people don't understand it. And so think about this. If there was a person sitting next to me right here, they would have the same rights that I do if they're a citizen of the U.S. And if I violate the rights, like let's say I physically punch them, so I assault them, then I have violated their rights. And in so doing, I have given up my rights because I have offended their rights. That's how the social compact works. As long as each of us, we take the responsibility for maintaining peace and for protecting each other, we are responsible for that. It's not the police. A lot of people think, oh, we need more police, and I'm not saying we don't need police. We need lots of police. We need to treat them well. We need to train them well. They need to be honored. They need to be respected because they have a job to do. But the job that they do is different than what most of us think about. So because I assaulted this person sitting next to me, I punched him, this makeshift person that I just made up here, then by doing that, I've given up my rights. And so you can picture me putting my hands behind my back and putting my hands in handcuffs because I have said that I can't control myself to not offend someone else's rights. And so if you think about it in those scenarios, what's the role of the police? And this is what we need to understand in order to have a right perspective on what the judicial system is supposed to do. So the right role of the police is that they come in after that situation has happened to detain the person who has already given up their rights. Do you see how that works? So it's not the responsibility of the police necessarily to calm the situation or to keep you safe or to prevent bad things from happening. That's up to each one of us, according to the social compact, and that's how our country is designed. And so that's the responsibility, and how the responsibility falls to us. Okay, the Chevron Doctrine. Everybody's heard about that. Maybe you haven't heard about it before this week. I remember hearing about it when I was a kid, but I didn't understand what it meant. So basically what it means is it was a decision that was made by the Supreme Court that essentially said, I was just looking at Jake's new shoes. I got to show them to you. Look at that. They're called Hey Dude. These are so crazy. I saw there were some pictures of one of the kids was like have you guys seen the Trump shoes? They're pretty cool too. There was one of our family members. I don't know if Jake was there or Gabe was there or what, but it was a birthday party for one of the kids at church, and multiple of the kids had these Hey Dudes on. Like, these are they're just like these cheap, in my opinion, and I guess maybe they're comfortable. I don't know. I think the kids are just lazy because they can slip them on and off. It makes it easy for them. But I mean, these things like don't weigh anything. This thing weighs like 3 pieces of popcorn. I mean, it's just like nothing. And of course they cost like who knows how much, but these ones are really cool looking. But anyways, Chevron doctrine. So essentially what it says is that if there is a conflict in the courts related to a law, then the courts have to rely on the experts, and the experts exist within the administrative state, within agencies, like for example in the Environmental Protection Agency. Those agencies don't have a hierarchy. Okay, so underneath the executive branch, you have departments like the DOJ, Department of Justice, Department of Education, Department of Energy. Those all report directly to the chief executive officer of the country, which is the president. And then underneath the departments, you have bureaus like the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, falls underneath the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and it's like a subsidiary. That's the way it works. And so all the bureaus report into departments that report to the executive branch. But then you have agencies like the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and thousands of other ones. And these are all funded by Congress. But how do they report? And they don't have a reporting structure. And that's the problem, is the EPA can make a rule, and that rule is essentially treated as if it's law because Congress has abdicated their responsibility and given it to these agencies. And so here's the problem with that. You have these so-called experts that are making a decision, maybe even if it's a panel-based decision, it doesn't matter, because it's never passed through the halls of Congress. And we elect people in order to represent us. This is a representative government. And so everything that we are subject to legally and according to our system has to pass through Congress. If it doesn't go through Congress, then it's not a law. It's not something that we have to be subject to. And if we end up in a situation where we are essentially under the authority of an administrative state, which we have been for decades, then we can't hold our elected accountable. And there's many ways where this has been happening. And you look at even the way the spending in Congress happens, and I'll sort of circle back around to kind of tie this all together. But like, for example, for decades, we've been using what's called an omnibus spending bill. An omnibus is instead of taking your sedan with your family, you get on a bus with like 30 families. And that's kind of like how the budget looks. It's like this massive multi-trillion dollar omnibus. And it's like funding everything. And why is that bad? Well, if your congressman votes for it, then, they're voting for just trillions or billions of dollars for God only knows what. And that's how all this fat and pork gets put into these things for all these weird pet projects like gender studies in Pakistan, and things that you and I would never approve of and never agree to pay for. And so it's important, as my friend Matt Gaetz and many others in Congress, Thomas Massey has a debt clock that he wears on his jacket. Most of the Freedom Caucus is very much in support of having single spending bills where basically you break up that omnibus and you put everybody back in their sedans, and you start voting on each individual spending bill, which is probably one of the number one responsibilities that Congress has, because that's our money, right? And right now, every single person in Congress who votes for those spending bills ought to be embarrassed, because they're spending money that we don't even have. So we're borrowing money that we're going to pay interest on in order to give it to Ukraine or give it to Israel or give it to, who knows what. And there's really no reason why we can't have a balanced budget. They just need to do the work. But it becomes much more difficult to have a balanced budget if you're using an omnibus program, because they just stuff all this stuff in there. And the attitude within DC is like, well, we've got this, ATM. It'd be like putting an ATM outside your kid's bedroom door. And instead of them coming to you and saying, hey, I need a few bucks for camp or for lunch or for whatever, they just go to the little ATM machine outside their door and pull out some money, and before you know it, they're taking $100 a day out of there, and there's no intent, even though it wouldn't be that difficult. I say I have a plan for how we could do it, and I won't go into that now because I don't want to make this too long, and I always end up carrying too many things, even talking about this budget thing. But so back to the Chevron doctrine, it's similar in that you want to be protected by the vote of your representative, but you also want to be able to hold your representative accountable for what they vote for. Because if there's an omnibus spending bill, this is the thing that your candidate or your representative will always say when they come back to the district and they have their town hall, and they say, why did you vote to send another $95 billion? And it's like, well, there was some funding in there for the military, and there was funding in there for this. And so, that was really important. We need to get that funded. And so we just had to, we had to vote with everybody else to do all this stuff. And it's like, it's hard for me to answer that without swearing. That is such hogwash. That is just garbage. Break those bills up and get rid of that spending. If the American people will not approve of this stuff, then why the heck should our representatives be voting for it? And why should we be allowing those things to come out of committee with all this garbage in them that's paying for who knows what? And it's terrible. And so we cannot do that. And so anyway, what the Chevron doctrine, basically this week, with the basically flushing the toilet on the Chevron doctrine, what it does is it pushes that responsibility back to our congressional offices. Now, I would argue that our congressional offices need to grow. I know a lot of people will push back on that, but right now the congressional offices are limited to 18 staff, and there's just a lot to do. And I'll also tell you that we need a new breed of congressmen. We need people who understand digital currency, cryptocurrency, that understand centralized and decentralized, that understand AI and AGI and ASI and where we're going with this stuff, and what the true existential threats are, and that are smart enough to look at and read maybe just a few simple books on the environment and on this whole climate, hypocrisy and ridiculousness, so that you can understand that. You need to understand finance. You need to understand business, how it works. You need to understand the difference between municipal businesses and these other businesses. You need to understand the legal system and how Americans, both individually and publicly, are being forced to compete with government. So we need a new crop of representatives who are able to sort of shoulder all that stuff, but also be able to be enough of a leader that they can lead a team of maybe 30 or 40 people. Not just 18, because there are so many disciplines and so much work to be done. And this crushing of the Chevron doctrine only adds to that, because it means that all this stuff now needs to flow through Congress where it should flow through. Remember, in our original the original intent for the congressional districts was that they wouldn't exceed 50,000 people. We're at nearly 800,000 people now in each congressional district. And so it's a ton of responsibility on each of the representatives, and you need to absolutely send the best. In this particular race, I'm endorsed by President Trump. He endorsed me because he knows that I'm one of those people that can understand all this stuff. I've been successful at other things in my life before getting into civics, and I think and public service, and I think that's important. I think people need to have some success in some other things, and then they'll probably be better at representing the people. They can understand life and what all it entails. The other candidates in the race, there's some decent people, but they just don't have the skill set. In fact, I would just argue that, I'm basically like a gladiator in this race in terms of my experience and my understanding, my knowledge, my IQ, my ability, as compared to anybody else in this race, including the incumbent Dan Newhouse, who's really disgraced our district in terms of his votes against our traditional American values. So anyway, I'm excited. I've been saying for years now that we needed to gut the administrative state. We've got thousands and thousands of agencies that are making decisions that we end up being held accountable for, that we essentially are held accountable for in terms of them being like a law. and it's these agencies shouldn't have the authority to write law because it doesn't go through Congress. And so I also think there's a lot of those agencies that need to go away. I would love it if we could, if we could literally, I think Vivek Ramaswamy had a great idea. Day one, cut the executive branch in half. Everybody who has, for example, flip a coin. If you have your social security number ends in an odd number, you're fired. Half of the government. The federal government is the largest employer in the country, and it's ridiculous. What are all these people doing? It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it's just like it's just this gargantuan thing that never gets any smaller. It only gets bigger, and they increase their budgets every single year. And we create these new agencies, and we create this and create that, and task force, and all kinds of other stuff, and it needs to be pulled back. And then Vivek suggested let it stabilize for 6 months and then do it again. Flip the coin again. And, I guess at that point, you'd have to figure something else. Maybe use a number scale, 1 through 5 and 6 through 10 or something. And, whatever your social security number ends in, another half. So you end up with 25% of the employees as compared to what we have now. So anyway, that's what we have to do. I've been saying for years that we need to decentralize and we need to deregulate. That it all plays into that. We need to pull away responsibilities from the federal government and give them to the states. We need to abolish the 16th and 17th Amendment, which has already happened to the 18th Amendment. And because those two are really holding the country back, they enable the federal government, especially the 16th Amendment through taxation directly. But the 17th Amendment is a big deal. Most people don't think about this, but the reason why it's such a big deal is not just because of the method in terms of how the senators are elected, but it's in part because it forces the voters, the citizens, to pay attention to who they're sending to their state legislatures, because it's the state legislatures that are supposed to be responsible for picking the senators that go to Washington, D.C. every single year. And so that's why the 17th Amendment needs to go. 16th, 17th, and 18th Amendment were part of the so-called progressive era of the early 1900s, which also birthed the ATF, which was interesting because the ATF was really as a result of the 18th Amendment, which was prohibition, and it was a short period. I think it was like 13 years or something before the 21st Amendment came along and abolished the 18th Amendment, so got rid of prohibition. But during that time, so much money got pushed into that it really created the mob. And then the mob really started, especially when the 21st Amendment came along and it was basically going to take all the revenue stream, they started diversifying, knowing that was likely going to happen. And one of the things that they did was they invested heavily in weapons. And they actually, created things like the Tommy gun and different things like that. And that's actually why the ATF was started. And then, of course, and it was actually started, the ATF started as a part of the IRS. Most people don't know that. But my point is that we had this so-called progressive era in the early 1900s, and they think that they're making these good decisions, but it's dumb. And in the case of the 18th Amendment, where they were trying to legislate morality, which never works, they ended up making things a lot worse. And of course, even still today, we're dealing with now the overreach of the ATF into our lives. And of course, I guess in some ways, maybe from a military standpoint, the advancement of some of the weapons was good. But what a brutal time period there. In the middle of the 1900s, as a result of a lot of things that the mob were doing. So anyway, I'm rambling now. You can tell I'm tired. We're only a few days into our 25-day run, and I've got to get to bed and get some sleep so I can be ready to charge at it tomorrow. I'm going to be in Sela tomorrow for an event, and then this week is pretty busy with a number of different events around our great and amazing Independence Day. And I hope all of you are incredibly and unbelievably thankful for being a part of this country. And I hope that you celebrate with friends and you have a great time on the 4th of July this week. So anyway, God bless you. Welcome to July. Remember, the American flag is still our pride flag. through June and right into July and every other month of the year. So God bless you, and we'll talk to you soon.